let's just get straight into it. First, I wanted to explain the difference between masc and butch, because I feel like some people get them mixed up and then some people don't actually know what the difference is between those terms. So anyone can be masc. Masc is short for masculine or masculinity, like it's a descriptive word and it's more of an aesthetic in a way, compared to butch, which is a role. It's like a deep-rooted community role within lesbian culture, and it's only for lesbians. So like anyone can be masc, but only lesbians can be butches. I would say that I used to be masc, but that's only because I didn't know you could identify as butch. Like, it felt like a very outdated term to me, and whenever I heard it being used in my life, it was more of a derogatory term than something that you could actually like identify as. And obviously that's just because of like the stigmatization and like the negative perceptions of butch lesbians. But now I am definitely butch, and I get offended if someone like refers to me as a masc lesbian. I just get really offended because being butch is such an integral part of my identity and my gender expression that it just doesn't sit right with me to be called masc. Like, I identify as non-binary, but if I was to pick one word to explain my gender identity, I would say butch, because it includes more than just like your perception, if that makes sense. Now I'm going to talk about the history of butch lesbians, and specifically why he/him lesbians and lesbians on testosterone are valid, because some people don't think they are. Speaking to you, Reddit. So yeah. Firstly, if you identify as a lesbian, you're already challenging the norms and expectations around womanhood. If you are not a man and you're not attracted to men, then that like blows people's minds. Within this patriarchal society, that is unheard of. Like, your sense of gender is already unique within this system, which is policing gender and sexuality. Therefore, this disconnect that lesbians feel towards womanhood explains why we have a more complex relationship with gender itself. And I just see butch lesbians as embracing this even further, this complex relationship even further, challenging those norms and expectations. Gender subversion is a staple within butch identity. It's powerful because it's undermining the system that is oppressing us and policing our gender in the first place. So it's reclaiming the oppression that we face for our gender expression in a lesbian way, if that makes sense. Initially in history, he/him lesbians were used as like a safety tool within the community, because obviously their gender being perceived as it was more safe to go by he/him pronouns, as that's kind of what was expected, especially if you were to ingrain in like just traditional society. You could kind of go under the radar if you used he/him pronouns or even had a masculine name. A lot of people did that. But now it's so ingrained in our culture that obviously people are more free to use them now, except for the people who are policing that, who aren't even part of the lesbian community. But yeah, it's just a huge part of our culture as lesbians, and anyone should be able to use whatever pronouns they use. Like, it does not matter. If you're really getting upset by the pronouns that another lesbian uses, like, you need to go outside, touch some grass. So why did I want to go on testosterone as a butch lesbian? Basically, I identify as non-binary, and I've been non-binary for like 4 years. I'm very comfortable with that identity, but the way I was presenting myself, that's not what I was comfortable with. I wanted to feel more androgynous. I wanted to feel more like gender ambiguous, almost like literally like falling between female male. I just kept getting she/her, and it was just like really draining on my mental health and everything, and like it really made me evaluate how I'm being perceived and how comfortable I am within myself and what I want from myself to become what I'm comfortable with. And for me, I found out that testosterone was one way to do that. So yeah, I just basically wanted to feel more affirmed in like my masculinity, and it to be more prominent within my identity. The main things I wanted was my voice was so... When you're on testosterone, you kind of don't really realise your voice changing. And my voice used to be so girly, like it used to just be so feminine, and like I just hated hearing myself talk. Like I really hated that, and now I don't. Sorry, gonna yap. But yeah, like it's just about being comfortable within yourself. But I also, not everyone has to have gender dysphoria to go on hormones, literally, because the majority of people on hormones are cis people. But I do have gender dysphoria as well, so obviously like it's to do with that for me, but it's everyone's each personal experience. But personally, I do have gender dysphoria, and so I kind of knew that hormones were going to help with that as well. So now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty part of the changes that I have experienced with testosterone. Firstly, voice change. Like I said before, I kind of didn't realise my voice changing until I've looked back at videos of me pre-T, and I'm like, oh, oh my god, that's crazy. That's a really good thing. It makes me feel a lot more confident when talking. The next change is my period stopping. I think my period stopped around 3 months in. The 2 periods that I did have were so painful, like they were more painful than any other period I've had. And it also meant, so I had like quite a regular period, but those 2 were very irregular, and I would just like randomly bleed. It was kind of crazy, and I was like, oh god, is this gonna happen forever? But my period stopped after 3 months. I think that's pretty normal, but some people's periods don't stop at all with testosterone, and you have to get hormone blockers. But luckily for me, I don't have to do that. Body hair. That's a big one. I am so hairy. I'm so hairy. Look at my legs. And it's just everywhere. And like my stomach has lots of hair. Started growing hair a bit on my chest. But it's not a problem. And like facial hair as well. I've literally like shaved today. I don't have like a full beard. Like I just get a little like pubic moustache. And like a few scraggly hairs like around here. Really easy to shave off. Like when people go into testosterone, like people always be like, oh, this, I don't want this, I don't want this. It's not necessarily something I wanted, but it's not a problem. Like it's really gender affirming to like shave your face, which is different to being like a woman and being forced to shave. Like you just feel like it's like a chore that you have to do, kind of. But this doesn't feel like a chore. It's like just fun. Oh yeah, my eyebrows have gotten so much darker. I definitely did have lighter hair before I started T. Yeah, so I think my hair's gotten darker. My eyebrows have gotten darker. Also, my face shape has changed, I think. I think my jaw shape has changed a bit. If I have the photos, I'll put them up now. And you can kind of tell, I think, which moves on to fat redistribution. I definitely think I've experienced fat redistribution, and that includes face shape and the squaring out of my hips. And the best one for me has been the redistribution in my chest. I don't know what bra size I was. I'm gonna say I was a C cup before T, and now I'm like B, A cup. So it's a lot more easier to bind. Unfortunately, I can't really bind because a binder for me is just like so uncomfortable, and I have really bad lungs. I can't really, my breathing is not the best, and it doesn't help with that. I just feel very out of breath all the time. And then with tape, that's what I've like done recently in the past year, but I'm like allergic to what they use on the tape. So I'm just like itching the whole time. Which moves on to the fact that I'm trying to get top surgery. So if you want to like donate to my GoFundMe, that would be really helpful. I'll put the link in the description, and it's also in my bio. That's why I'm trying to get top surgery. But testosterone has definitely helped with my chest dysphoria. It just means that it is technically easier to bind, but obviously I just struggle with binding. Like it's just not really something that I can do personally. Bottom growth. Oh, I said it. Well, let me tell you the truth, okay? I'm going to be really honest with you here. So, when I was, like, looking into starting testosterone and I was watching all these people videos, everyone says the first change they noticed on T was bottom growth. And I did not have that experience. And I thought I was, like, going crazy. I thought it was not working. I had a panic. I was like, oh my god, testosterone's not working. Everyone is different. Even when the majority of people online are saying, oh, like, this is what I experienced first, you could be completely different. And that's what I found out. That is not what happened for me first. I probably didn't notice bottom growth until like a month in. That's another thing that people are kind of like a bit sketchy about when they're starting T. Mostly it's like facial hair and bottom growth. And honestly, like, it's not a big deal. Like, everyone's bodies are different. Some people's, like, biological female bodies will have that look already of bottom growth, and it's just, like, I find it quite... It's quite, like, offensive to people in general, I think, to be like, I'm scared of bottom growth, like, I'm scared my clitoris is gonna grow. Like, some people just look like that. You know, you have to just accept that people's bodies are different, and if you're scared of a big clit, like... yeah, there's other things to be worrying about. Like, again, that's just kind of a reminder, like, don't judge your experience on everyone else. Don't compare it, because it will not be the same. Now onto the mental side of things. Obviously, I'm a lot happier. I'm a lot more confident in myself. I feel like I hold myself a different way now. I just feel really secure within myself. I still cry. Some people can't cry because of tea, or they just, like, find it more difficult. For me, I've always been an emotional person. I still cry a lot. Short temper. I definitely have much more of a short temper. I just get, like, irritated more easily and at smaller things. And finally, for me, about my gender identity, how it's changed. Because I was scared that when I was going to start testosterone, I was going to be like, actually, I'm going to fully transition into a male. Like, I'm going to turn into a trans man from a butch lesbian. Like, that was the fear I had. But that has not happened to me. I feel like it's gone in the opposite direction. I feel a lot more fluid within my identity. Before I started T, I used they, them pronouns, and I was very, very, like, nitpicky about it, and I'd get very affected and upset if someone was to misgender me. But now I've changed to any pronouns. I literally do not care what people call me. Like, if you call me she, her, I just assume that you're seeing me as a butch lesbian, if that makes sense. So, like, I just feel more secure, and, like, I just don't really care what people call me anymore because of how comfortable I feel about myself. I don't know if that makes sense. And obviously, that's just me. Like, it's fine if you don't feel like that when you start T, but that's what happened to me, and couldn't be more happy with how I feel in general about, like, being... just not caring anymore when people misgender me, and just knowing who I am, so it doesn't matter what people think I am. But yeah, that is pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about in this video. I just really hope I've helped inform people a bit more about what it's like to be a butch lesbian on testosterone, especially if that's something that you are considering to do. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.